The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
Think about this, okay? The Boston Celtics, they trade Marcus Smart and they win a championship. The Kansas City, they trade Tyreek Hill and they win too. Bro, I'm telling you, Trevor, they may trade us. The Canucks may trade us, okay? For real.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard it from Kyle Bhawan. Anything is possible, okay? Especially when you tune in to Locked On Canucks. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host and also a Canucks writer since 2013. Currently, maybe with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks, because guess what? It is your Canucks every damn day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you go like, subscribe, follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I also got to let you know today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. When you think of core pieces of your team, you don't really think of offloading them or trading them, right? You have the core in together for a reason, okay? This is the core that's going to lead you to a championship. Well, guess what? As Kyle alluded to in the cold open, often that's not how it goes, right? We saw it with the Boston Celtics recently, trading All-Star guard Marcus Smart away, going on to win a championship. We saw it with the Kansas City Chiefs, trading away Tyreek Hill, becoming back-to-back championships. Could the Vancouver Canucks do the same thing with one of their core pieces, and who might that core piece be? Let's get into it. Before we dive into the trade speculation coming out the wazoo, let me introduce my co-host. He says life's a beach, but he's recording from a basement. Kyle Bhawan, how you doing, brother?
Straight up, a basement that right now is not just rented by this Findu right here, but also a couple mice, okay? So what I'm doing right now is the most for the people here at Locked On Canucks, okay? For real, because Trevor Beggs talked about this yesterday. I'm a beach, okay? I'm a big beach when it comes to mice, okay? I've not gone to work a couple times in this thing called my life because mice were in our studio, okay? For real. It is what it is. What's that word for people who are scared of spiders? Necrophiliacs? What? No,
arachnophobia?
Arachnophobia. I think I said something completely different right there. I've been watching way too much Law and Order, okay? Anyways, I'm a beach when it comes to mice. But I'm doing this, and I'm doing this while also talking about something that I thought I'd never talk about, for real. And that's potentially moving off of Pettersson, Demko, or Boeser this offseason. What are we doing here, man? What are we smoking? What are we smoking? Smoking some whack stuff. I can't believe you had me talking about this, but again, we just saw what happened with the Boston Celtics. You look at the Chiefs, and then you look at the Canucks, right? Demko, she loves the backup. Demko, the landscape of the NHL, right? I know Bobrovsky is doing his thing, but there's a recipe there to win with quote-unquote other types of goaltenders. You look at Brock Boeser, 40-goal season, career year, one of our best players in the playoffs. A big reason why we didn't advance to the Western Conference Finals was not only because of Demko, was because of the fact that, again, Boeser wasn't there. But last time I checked, he only has one more year left on his contract. And then you look at the whole Pettersson thing. The last time I checked, unless I'm wrong, this guy has a lot of no-trade clauses in that big deal that he just signed. But there's not one there in year one or this offseason. You know what I'm saying? So I wonder if the whole ruthless summer thing that Thatcher brought up a couple weeks ago is not only in line with letting go of guys like Zadorov and Lindholm, but also in line with seeing something completely unpredictable.
Yeah, and I think, again, we've seen it in multiple sports, as we've alluded to. And, I think another reason why we might see more of these blockbuster type trades in the NHL is the cap increasing, right? Teams for the last 4 seasons now have been basically at a standstill cap wise, right? the cap, what was the stat? I think the cap went up $4 million between 2019 and 2024. And then this year you got like a $4.5 million increase, right? So, and it's expected to keep extrapolating at the same rate over the next couple of seasons. So this could be a recipe for more blockbuster trades to happen in the NHL. And again, when I look at this Vancouver Canucks roster, I think most of us believe that guys you just mentioned, Kyle, Demko, Boeser, Pettersson are probably untouchable, probably not going anywhere. But I beg to differ because I think this is a bold management team. We're going to be in an environment where more blockbuster trades could flourish. And again, we've seen it across other sports that, sometimes holding on to your so-called best players or core players isn't necessarily the best strategy. So I want to get into Thatcher Demko first, because to me, this is one of the most interesting names to discuss because of, obviously he was the second best goalie in the NHL this season. He's on a sweetheart deal for 3 more seasons after this one. And he also has a bit of an injury history, right? He's a guy who hasn't really been full starter, been a healthy full starter for a full NHL season. And look, people who not only have listened to the show and are everydayers, but people who have maybe listened to our other shows or read my work, I've been such a Thatcher Demko believer from day one. Like, I've always believed since this guy was in college that he could be one of the best goalies in the NHL, just based on his playing style, his mentality, overcoming obstacles in terms of injuries. I've been a big Thatcher Demko believer. That being said, goaltending is a fickle position in the NHL. And what do we have right now? We have Archer Shilovs, who, again, I don't want to go too crazy with the Archer Shilovs hype. I don't think this guy's ready to be an NHL starter.
Yeah.
But it certainly begs the question, is this the time to potentially sell high on Thatcher Demko? And what could you potentially get if you trade away Thatcher Demko?
Yeah. It's an interesting conversation, and I think it's one conversation that I'd like to have in 12 months. I still think Demko is, like you said, world-class. I know he's a bit injury-prone. I don't want to say he's going to get injured again next season, but you never know what's going to happen. That all being said, I look at a scenario 12 months from now where the Canucks go on another run. Maybe Shilovs has like 25 to 30 starts under him, does really well, does his thing, and then the organization is more comfortable moving off of Demko, knowing that you can still get a lot for him, right? Because moving Pettersson or moving Boeser is one thing, but for a team that just learned how to win, like very, very recently, having a Vezina-like goaltender in the fold makes it easier to continue this adaptation, which is, again, winning games. This organization just started doing so. Allowing 2 to 3 goals per game or less makes it a ton of a lot easier to do so. So I'm more comfortable doing this, if at all, 12 months from now, not this season.
And Kyle, what are your thoughts on a potential in-season trade as well? Because when I look at some of the biggest goalie trades in recent NHL history, let's get spicy, man. Let's get spicy.
Is Trevor still there?
Tuesday in June.
Oh man, I think you cut out a bit. Can you say that again?
I said let's get spicy. It's a summer Tuesday in June. But when I look at some of the biggest goalie trades in recent NHL history, a lot of them happened, in season, right? And I'm not sure if all of these were in season, but I'm thinking about Darcy Kemper, right? And Darcy Kemper is an interesting one to me because the Coyotes trade him to the Colorado Avalanche. And what happens? He goes on to help them win a cup. Now, Darcy Kemper.
Oh, I think we're getting some.
The primary reason.
It's one of those episodes. Are we there?
Yeah, sorry, Kyle. No. I'm still here.
Okay.
I'm still here.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, Darcy Kemper again. They make that trade, Arizona and Colorado, and Darcy Kemper helps the Avalanche win a Stanley Cup. Now, he wasn't necessarily the most integral member or reason they won the cup because he was missing in action for a little bit there. But they basically trade away a good prospect defenseman, a first-round pick, and a third-round pick. So that's a decent haul for Darcy Kemper, who at the time was not on Demko's level. So it makes you wonder, like, what is the package for Demko? Is it, a stud right shot or a stud defensive prospect, a first and a second, like something along those lines? Is there a roster player included? I mean, I do think we don't see goalie trades of that magnitude happen very often. We might see one, and maybe we'll likely see one with Jacob Markstrom this summer. So that could be a template as well. But again, I think if someone really loves Thatcher Demko, and there's teams around the NHL that need good goaltending, there might be a team willing to buck up and pay a big price for Thatcher Demko. Another point I want to bring up on whether it's trading Demko or one of the other core pieces is let's look at the template left by the Boston Celtics. And I know what you're saying. Yeah, shut up, Trevor. It's a different sport, but let's just theorize for a second here. What the Boston Celtics did is they traded Marcus Smart to the Memphis Grizzlies or Houston Rockets. I can't remember. They traded him to one team, and then they acquired Kristaps Porzingis from another team. So they play the same position. Kristaps, whatever. Yeah. Come on, you can tell I'm a very casual basketball fan. But they basically replaced Marcus Smart in a separate trade. Now, is that a template for the Canucks? They trade away Demko for this huge haul. They acquire another 1A goaltender, let's say, for a lesser haul to kind of compete with Sheilovs for the net and go with the kind of a 1A, 1B split. So that's another option for the Canucks as well if you do truly want to sell high on Thatcher Demko or another one of your core pieces. Do you see that at all being possible, Kyle? Or do you like that idea?
Again, I like that idea 12 months from now, okay? And just on a note, Trevor, I'm going to keep my answers short because you're lagging for me, but I don't think you're lagging for the audience, so it's obviously a me thing. So I'm going to keep going back to you, okay? Just so we can keep this smooth for the people and the listeners, okay? Again, I don't mind that happening 12 months from now. Not now. Because somebody who is so important to, again, generating organizational success. Look, I want the Canucks to win a Stanley Cup ASAP, aka next season. But in all likelihood, there's going to have to be more steps along this journey, okay? We keep bringing up the Boston Celtics. Look at what they've gone through over the last 5 years, okay? Multiple Eastern Conference Championship final appearances. They've been to the NBA Finals once, and they finally won. And then they made all these big moves before they won, you know? So again, in order for me to get there and be comfortable with trading Demko for assets and then moving off of those assets to with Marcus Smart and then eventually ending up with Drew Holiday, it's only going to make sense to me again down the road. Now, Trevor, you bring up the whole asset thing, and I know you're going to get more into this on the second segment. That is why I think a lot of this is possible, because over the last 14 months, into this next generation of Vancouver Canucks hockey with Alvin and Rutherford, they've given up so many draft picks and multiple assets. So a restocking of the cupboard has to be on their to-do list at some point. And it may sound crazy for a team that, again, has taken strides into contendership, but I think it's still possible to, I wouldn't say retool, but change a lot of things up eventually get to the mountaintop.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Yeah, I know through the leg, I know what you're saying, buddy. And, on the other side, I do want to talk about that idea of, trading Demko for, let's say it's a bunch of futures and then maybe acquiring another 1A goaltender as a way of restocking the cupboards. And let's also get into potentially trading Boeser or Pettersson, okay? And we'll also get into your comments as well. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. Before we get to the other side, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel. You know the deal, baby. It's winner take all time in the NBA. It's Stanley Cup final times in the NHL. And hey, happy D-Day to the Edmonton Oilers, okay? You're done. You're done tonight. Okay, Panthers in 5. Let's go, baby. Whether you're betting on, hey, the NBA finals are done. FanDuel, update the ad read. Come on. Whether you're betting on NBA futures, Stanley Cup finals, Stanley Cup futures, or anything else, make sure you do so on FanDuel, because right now new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 you can use to bet on everything from the finals MVP to who's going to hit one out of the park. And I said this yesterday. My blood is still boiling, okay? The Vancouver Canucks have the 13th best odds of winning the Stanley Cup next season, according to FanDuel. The Devils have better odds. The Kings have better odds. The Jets have better odds. The Leafs have better odds. Get out of here, FanDuel. They might be trying to help you make some money, though. They got your back, okay? So make sure you go visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and add a big win to your bucket list. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Oh, yeah,
Boom,
man.
boom, boom, boom.
Man, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight in Vancouver, all my real fans.
People, we back doing this, talking about your Vancouver Canucks. I just switched over to my hotspot. Maybe, yes, maybe that'll make things a lot easier on your end. Man, oh man, we're doing a lot here. Maybe this is karma, though. Maybe this is karma, okay? The connection on today's episode because of what we're doing here. Look at what we're doing, bro. It's the summer. The Canucks came off one of their best seasons in a long time. Brock Boeser, right? Brock Boeser, a big part of that solution for us. Demko as well, Pettersson as well. And here we are, saying that the ruthless summer could come at the expense of those guys having to move away from Vancouver. What was that episode of Game of Thrones? The Red Wedding?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Yeah, the Red Wedding. Yeah. Oh,
there you go, man. Okay, you know
It's
what?
a cruel summer.
It could happen, man. It could happen. Now, let's move on to Brock, okay? On a scale of 1 to 10, how mad would you be if they did trade Brock based on the emotional attachment the fans have to him and just in general, like his play this season? How much, like, if there's any player in the NHL that deserves the best and the most success, it's that guy for real. How mad would you be at the organization for moving off of him? And at the same time, answer this: like, how much sense does it make for the team to do so, considering contract, all this jazz, and the future, man?
Yeah, I'll break that down into the pros and cons quickly. I think the pros are there's a good chance that Boeser doesn't hit 40 goals again in his career. And not to be a downer or anything, but hitting 40 goals is hard to do. And I know we saw the best version of Boeser this season. He's also statistically in an age where he's maybe near the end of his prime. I know people don't want to hear that, but it's typically 24 to 28 right now. JT Miller says F you to your age brackets, and he's continued to be an amazing player. But there's a good argument that we've seen the best of Brock Boeser, and there's an argument that selling high on him could make sense. The reason it probably doesn't make sense for the Vancouver Canucks is because they need more top six wingers. You trade Boeser, you're just creating another giant hole in your lineup. And again, you could theorize that based on the Marcus Smart template or what we talked about with Demko in segment 1, that you trade Boeser, you get a haul, you get a lesser top six winger. But I think the Canucks, if they do that, they're still in the same pickle that they were before. I think with Brock Boeser, who is, again, now the longest tenured Canuck on this team, which is nuts to think about. If you trade him, I think you're creating more problems than you are if you just keep him. So I think that's really the main argument with Boeser as well. You need another, not even a top six winger. I think you need another top line winger on this team if you want to be a Stanley Cup contender. And that's why, we're hearing a lot about Jake Gensel. And I think the Canucks are going to push really, really hard for Jake Gensel this offseason because the best version of this team, I think, is a top six that includes Gensel, Pettersson, Miller, and Boeser.
Or maybe they pull a Houdini and go after 2 or 3 top 6 wingers, top 9. Maybe like the third guy's like a top 9 winger. And maybe that has a lot to do with Dakota Joshua leaving, etc. But maybe they do something like that, again, surprise us because they have a Brock Boeser trade in the works. Again, I think the notion, or again, the feeling that I have in my gut that tells me that this team could benefit from stacking up the cupboards, whether it be to develop players or, again, use it for a bigger package when the team is ready to really compete for a cup, is something that makes sense to me. And they did that this year. I mean, look at the moves that they made this year. Again, I don't know the number, but I feel like it was like 11 draft picks in 12 months that they moved off on to acquire some pieces that were pretty important to this team, right? Casey DeSmith, Lindholm, Zadorov. In order to maybe do that again, maybe like 2 trade deadlines away, but maybe even at the next deadline, right? If they don't want to get rid of Karamaki or Willander, they need picks. I could see something happening where the Canucks, again, sign 2 guys this season, Gensel and somebody else, and move off of Boeser.
Woo! Yeah, that's spicy, bro. That's spicy. Yeah, I mean, there are other top 6 winger options out on the free agent market. The problem with that is, again, you're going to pay these guys market value or above their value, right?
Well, what are you going to pay Boeser? Well, are you going to let Boeser be an unrestricted free agent?
My point about Boeser is he's still on a good contract for another season, right? I mean, it's funny saying that now because that contract, everyone's like, he can't trade that contract. It's untradeable. Yeah. This guy's never going to live up to it. He had a
Oh, we didn't.
fantastic.
The league said that too, right? Like nobody wanted him.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. This isn't just Locked On Canucks, your team every day talking here. This is around the NHL, right? No teams didn't want Boeser's contract on the books. And now, again, according to the Athletics player model, he played at about an $8.5 million value last season. So he is playing on a value contract now, which is something crazy compared to where he was, 12 to 14 months ago.
Yeah.
But again, I still think that unless negotiations really go south with Brock Boeser, this is a guy you got to keep on your team, right? And the other angle too is that, and I know the Jake Gensel stuff is kind of airy fairy pie in the sky stuff right now. But at the end of the day, Ben Hankinson is the agent for Boeser and Jake Gensel. So maybe there's something to be said there as well. Where if we're talking to Ben Hankinson about signing Jake Gensel, maybe they're talking to Ben Hankinson. They probably have an idea of where Boeser's number is. Kyle, you know what? Let's take another quick break here, and I do want to talk about Elias Pettersson, trading him on the other side. Let's end with the darkest and boldest of trading core players in this
We're going to
conversation.
hell. We are going to hell, dude. We are going to hell. Okay, wear your seatbelt today, buddy. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, it's gonna get crazy here. Locked On Canucks. After we showed our friends over at, I'm not sure. I'll let you know on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. All right, baby. I'm shouting out our friends over at Policygenius, okay? And you know what? I might not be rolling in the dough. The bank, I'm only making tens of dollars here on Locked On Canucks. So I got to make sure that if I die, if my wife decides to off me, or, I just die from natural causes, that she's protected with the big fat life insurance policy. And that's why I recruited our friends over at Policygenius. With Policygenius, you can find a life insurance policy that starts at just $292 per year for $1 million of coverage. Some options are 100% online and let you avoid unnecessary fingers of the butts, aka unnecessary medical exams. Okay? Policygenius, they have award-winning agents that can walk you through the insurance process step by step. And you know why you might need Policygenius? Because like me, your work life insurance policy ain't paying you nothing, okay? It's peanuts. That money's going to go quick. So that's why with Policygenius, again, get that big fat policy to protect your family, okay? Policygenius, you know what? They got no incentive to recommend one insurer over the other, so you can trust their guidance. Don't trust me? Guess what? They have thousands of 5-star reviews on Google from customers who found the best fit for their needs, baby. So get that peace of mind by finding the right life insurance with Policygenius. Head to policygenius.com or click the link in the description to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you save. That's policygenius.com, mother.
Man, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight in Vancouver, all my real fans.
People, we back doing this, talking about your Vancouver Canucks. Trevor Beggs, Kyle Bhawan. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. For that daily Canucks talk, that daily Canucks ramble, that daily Canucks bullshit. Like, what are we doing today, man? Traded Demko, Boeser, and Pettersson, man. That's something else. But it's not out of question, okay? I think in recent history, again, we brought this up from the top. Successful sports teams, they're brutal. They're ruthless when they're in pursuit of, again, the mountaintop, and anything is possible. It really is. It really, really is. Now, I know Frank Seravalli is not running the Vancouver Canucks, but damn, after seeing what Kansas City did with Tyreek Hill and this whole Marcus Smart thing, with Pettersson not having a full no movement clause in year one of this deal or this offseason, bad. Could it happen? I don't know, man.
You know what? We always talk about, and we talked about it with both Demko and Boeser in this conversation, selling high on a player. I would say right now you're probably not signing or selling high on Elias Pettersson after the second half of the season he had, after the atrocious playoffs he had, and after he's going to get a raise of over $4 million per season. So that being said, though, I do think there's 31 other NHL general managers out there, and what is a player worth? Whatever a GM's willing to give up for him. I do believe there's a GM out there that would, pay a good price for Elias Pettersson. despite the contract even, right? I think there's, look at the stats. I mean, he's over a point a game player in his career. He was good in his other time in the playoffs. Yeah, I know it's the bubble playoffs, but for the most of the last 5 seasons, he's been one of the best, most dynamic players in the NHL. So I do think there would be a team willing to give up assets for him. Now, if you are going to trade Pettersson, I think it has to look in the mold of what we suggested for Demko, what the Celtics did with Marcus Smart. You got to trade Pettersson for a boatload of assets, likely lesser players and futures, and then probably make another trade to get another player in a separate deal. Now, the one idea that stands out to me, and this is just boring what we already knew about, was trading with Carolina, like an Aho for Pettersson trade. Now, I don't think Carolina would do it at this point based on the contract because they like their books cheap, but that's the deal where you could get a top line center, probably get some assets as well, and trade Pettersson to another team. So I think, again, Canucks management, this is a bold management team. And again, the cap's going to go up. I expect to see some bold things. Will it be as bold as trading Elias Pettersson? Maybe. Who knows?
Who knows, man? Who knows, man? Unreal, man. Just again, like when you follow sports and you see all these things, all these crazy things happen, and then these crazy things ultimately lead to success, it makes you think that, like, again, anything is possible, right? Kansas City trading Tyreek Hill, winning 2 straight championships. Tyreek Hill in those 2 years has proven that he's the best wide receiver in football when he's on the field. And you're letting go of that guy and winning championships. How? And the whole Marcus Smart thing is, it's heart and soul, right? You're getting rid of a guy who's a fan favorite, an ultimate fan favorite. Everyone's pissed off. Everyone does not believe that Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis can help Boston win a championship. And look what they did yesterday. They absolutely dominate the Dallas Mavericks and one of the best players in the world. And they win a championship. And, I know this is a hockey show, so why don't we just talk about hockey? I mean, we saw it in the past with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. We did. They move off of players all the time. Heck, they're moving off of their best player in franchise history, most likely this offseason, and Jonathan Mustard Salt. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things, man. It's sports psychology. So Trevor Beggs, let me throw it to you, and maybe people in the comments can answer this as well. Let us know in the comments below or in the live chat. Like, why do you think teams, owners, general managers are in the business of doing just that? And that's trading not just fan favorites, because who really cares about what the fans say about the ins and outs of a hockey player, right? But why do you think these same guys are open to trading some of the best athletes in the sport and still want to stick to the plan, which is, again, win a championship? Like, that makes no sense.
It's a proven strategy that's worked across multiple sports. And I like that you brought up the Vegas example as well. I mean, you talk about a ruthless organization. That's been the most ruthless organization in the NHL since they entered the league. And it resulted in a mother effing Stanley Cup. So this strategy works. It's worked in the NBA. It's worked in the NFL. It's worked in the NHL. Being ruthless has worked. Being soft has not. And when I look at the NHL, a team that comes to mind for me always is the Winnipeg Jets. And the Winnipeg Jets have been fairly good throughout their history since returning in 2011, but they've always been safe. Winnipeg's never really making the big trade. They're always having to re-sign guys. The trades they've made, like I think of Kevin Hayes as an example, for the most part, they haven't really worked. So again, being safe is, I think, a recipe for maybe being mediocre to good, but it's not a recipe for winning championships. So I want to get to a couple more comments too. Speaking about being bold here on Locked On Canucks, okay? Kyle with the bold takes, me with the bold shirt today. Shout out to the YouTube viewers who can view one of my favorites here. But let's bring up this bold comment from Kurt Richardson. He's not the first person to toss this around, but we talked about trading Pettersson for Brady Tkachuk. How do you feel about that deal, and who has to add, if anybody, to that deal? I think as Canuck fans, we're thinking Ottawa's got to add for sure, but there's probably people in Ottawa, shout out to our friends at Locked On Sens, who think Brady Tkachuk's a unicorn. How could he add for this guy? But your thoughts on that, Kyle?
If the Canucks did that, Rick Tocchet would drive all the way to Ottawa just to pick him up. Straight up, he would do that, and he wouldn't take Pettersson with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would just be him going solo to Ottawa to pick up Brady Tkachuk. Dude, I'm a big Pettersson fan. You already know that. I think when this guy's on, he is a force in all facets of the ice, right? Like, he He can dominate defensively. He can do his thing offensively. Obviously, that wasn't apparent in the second half of the season, but I think his ceiling is way higher. But when it comes to winning games, I think when Brady Tkachuk is at his best, he gives you some extra things that can equate to, I don't know, what's that dumb fancy stat, the win rate, right? Or the win, whatever, like they can generate wins based on strong individual performances, in my opinion, at the same rate. Because they do different things, man. They're like, Brady Tkachuk is one of the most entertaining players in hockey when he's on. Like, he just pumps up the crowd. He does his thing. Imagine him in the playoffs. We haven't been able to see it yet. He's going to be a household name. Now, speaking of Tkachuk, we haven't even brought this up. Jonathan Huberdeau picked up 15 points? 115 points. It won the President's Trophy with the Florida Panthers. Yeah, they sucked in the playoffs, but what did Florida do a couple months later? They traded Jonathan Huberdeau and Mackenzie Weegar after winning the President's Trophy. And look at what they did after. They went to 2 straight Cup finals. Crazy, man.
Yeah, and Matthew Tkachuk has always said that Brady's a better player, and I think
he's
in
good.
terms of what we've seen on the ice, Matthew's been better, but Brady is certainly up there.
Okay, Rick Tocchet and Brady Tkachuk, though. Rick Tocchet and Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah.
Think about that.
I think Rick Tocchet again. I think Rick Tocchet's been a perfect coach for JT Miller. I think he'd be a great coach for Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah.
I also don't really see it happening. Look at the GM in Ottawa, Steve Staios. He's a rough and tough guy. I think he'd be loath to trade Brady Tkachuk and give up assets to get Pettersson. You know what I mean? So fun idea, but I don't see it happening. What about this question from Ryan Hernandez? Okay, you had to choose trade Boeser or trade Demko. Gun to your head, Kyle. Which one are you doing?
Boeser. I love Demko, man. Demko's freaking sick, bro. Again, if we're talking about it this season type, we're going into next season, the team needs Demko, bro. They need Demko. Come on. We just got here, man. We just started winning games. Let's learn how to do it some more. Let's have that confidence. Let's add more dubs into the building, add to the culture. It's way easier to do that when your goalie's on, okay? I know he's injury prone, Mr. Captain Popeye Sailor, but this is not the season to do so. If Demko has another good season next season and he's still making $5 million for one more year, whatever the number is, he's still going to be of high value. You get what I'm saying? But Boeser's coming off a 40-goal season and has 1 year left on his deal.
Yeah, it's for me. I think it's twofold for me, but for that question, trade Boeser, trade Demko. I prefer Demko as a player. I think Demko is, again, one of the best goalies in the world. And that's why between the two, I'd probably trade Demko over Boeser. I think you're getting more for Demko. I think goaltending is right now for the Canucks maybe easier to replace. Trust Ian Clark, trust the pipeline, see if you can get another goaltender that fits his system. You trade Boeser, I just think you're creating more problems for this team in the short term than you are with trading Demko. Because again, we saw this team almost get to the conference finals without Demko in net. So yeah, I like Demko better, but between the two, I'd trade Demko over Boeser.
Okay, Trevor, we'll end on this note. Because I know you got to go, but you make a strong point though, okay? Because when I was in Calgary chilling with my cousin, who's a big Oilers fan, and I don't think he was necessarily making this point that I'm about to state because of the roster that he cheers for, but because of the amount of playoff games he's watched over the last 5 years. But he brought up how he believes really good teams, yeah, they have like good centers and defensemen and goal, whatever, but really good teams have really good wingers. It made me think, because I feel like the wingers are at the bottom of the totem pole when you try to explain to yourself what a good team is, right? Built out of. But you're onto something, man. Maybe that's another episode, man. The most underrated position in sport, the right winger in the NHL, okay? Let's get to this last comment. SK93 saying Kyle Bhawan is looking like he's in 2007. Bro, again, apologize for the lag early on. The hotspot changed today. I'm recording this from home right now, doing my thing. Didn't want to lose this episode due to traffic. All that being said, Beggsy, what is your favorite song from 2007, okay? End it off on that note. You got to sing it for the people before you sign us out. My name is Kyle Bhawan. That guy's Trevor Beggs. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the show. We talking BS about your Canucks every day, and also rationality about your Vancouver Canucks every day as well. It's a fun time with you and you and you and you. Beggsy's going to sing you a little song from 2007 and sign you out.
Oh man, I just Googled it quick, songs from 2007. There's too many good ones to choose from, but I'm gonna go by with Paralyzed by Finger 11. I'm a paralyzed, but I
seem to be struck by you. I wanna make you move because you're standing still.
Let's get out of here, okay? Enough singing, okay? Shout out to the everydayers, the occasional listeners. I'm booting Kyle out, okay? The first-time listeners, the new subscribers, and those of you who join us on the live show on YouTube. We love each and every one of you, your family, and your dogs too. Shout out to you listening. Shout out to Finger 11. Shout out to more episodes upcoming here on Locked On Canucks. But for now, we got to get out of here, bitches. I'm Trevor Beggs. Beggs. That guy's Kyle Bhawan. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
What if Demko wins the Vagina? What's the Vagina?